Welcome back to SPD 911. I'm your host, Dr. Tayler Jacobs, President and COO of SIPS Healthcare. And this show is all about tackling the toughest challenges in sterile processing. Whether you're on the front lines or making high-level decisions, we're here to equip you with real solutions to rescue and elevate your department. Each episode, I'm joined by our Director of Clinical Compliance, Miss Sharon Greene-Golden, the GOAT, a leader in compliance and regulatory standards. And our operations machine, our Director of Clinical Operations, Mr. Boots on the Ground himself, Mr. Jacob Derrick Jones, a specialist in operational efficiency and team development. Together, we break down the critical issues affecting CSPD departments and provide actionable strategies to help you stay ahead. SPD 911 isn't just a show, it's your emergency response team for sterile processing. We tackle compliance concerns, streamline operations, and help you grow as a leader in the field. If you want to participate and ask live questions, you can join the Executive Edge community. It is free and the only way to engage with us directly. Each episode will break down compliance and operational issues with expert guidance from the GOATs themselves, because when it comes to sterile processing, every decision absolutely matters. Join us live every week on Wednesday at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time to catch the greatest sterile processing live show on planet Earth. What is going on, team? How y'all doing today?
Hello. Good afternoon.
Doing great. Glad to be back. Hey, we missed last week, but that's all right. We back now, right?
Hey, listen, we have to give them something to just miss us just a little bit. We just have to give them a little something to miss us.
Yeah. It's all good. Let's bring it on.
SGG, it sounds like Derrick was sad we missed the episode.
Yes. Okay.
He's been having that camera. Hey, for all of our onlookers right now in the SPD 911 streets, I want you to notice something. I want you to notice how Derrick camera got better. You know, SGG in the studio.
Look at that.
But new cameras?
We gotta do it right. There's only one way to do it, right?
We have to do it right. It's currently snowing and icing here in Dallas, Texas. DJ, what you got over there where you are? Is it snowing?
Man, it's about so it's been snowing for the last 2 days. We got about 20 degrees right now, man. But I saw 7 degrees in Dallas, Texas, and I ain't feel so bad. I almost went out and did a snow angel. You know what I mean? 7 degrees in Dallas, and I considered moving. I don't know about that. 7 degrees.
First and foremost, let me just tell you, it's only going to last a week. You know, we have places in America where it's literally cold. Chicago is negative 26 degrees. But in Dallas, it's only going to last a week. Trouble don't last always. Come on home.
Right.
Come on home.
I hope so. We're
trying to get SGG to get her a little vacation residency here in Dallas.
But
look, y'all too cold for me.
I ain't too impressed with that weather. It's 7 degrees. Oh man.
Let me ask you a question. Do you work outside?
Yep. I gotta go outside to get
That's
to work.
it.
Yeah.
you going from AC heat to heat, baby. Heat to heat.
Right. I'm spoiled. Right. Yes, sir.
Okay.
But it's
so
all right.
As you guys know, a lot of people have been extremely excited about our SPD 911 show, and our comments were absolutely amazing. As you know, people are going to know that we're back, and we'll do our best job. Our SPD 911 superstars, our heroes out there, our sterile processing heroes, of making sure that even if it's ugly, we'll show up on Wednesday. Every episode may not be the best if we're traveling, if we're at conferences, or if we're on site, but at least we can make sure that you're getting your 411 from Sharon Greene-Golden and Derrick Jones. I actually have a question. And you guys know we prepare questions all the time for this show so that you guys can make sure that you have the right answers, especially coming from some of those that are a part of our group. So if you're not in our group, you need to join our free community today. But this is what I will say. SGG, you're newer to this consulting space. Okay, going from regulatory compliance, you know all the stuff, you're part of all of the boards, and then transitioning from being a manager on site to now being an advisor and consultant on the other side. What's been some of the hardest transitions for you before we get into some SPD questions?
So, again, good afternoon. One of the hardest transitions has been that I am utterly blunt about what is real and what is true. And people really don't want to know that. They want you to sugarcoat the standards. And it's hard because you cannot sugarcoat best practice or evidence-based practice and standards. And so when I'm asked by somebody, what is the standard? And they give me some bull crap and I shoot it down, they're mad. They upset, they angry, but you asked me. And as the director, I'm supposed to give you truth to power. And it's been so hard because I'm having to count to 500 and formulate the thought in my mind to try to give the answers so that I don't stick knives in people. But understand what we're doing is dealing with patients and they're human beings, and I cannot afford to not tell you the truth when you ask the question. And so, Jake, as you know, I've been hurting people's feelings and people not happy because I gave them the answer. They didn't even want the answer. They wanted the TV version. And I'm trying to learn the TV version. You know, that's the version that's kind of true, but not really true.
And what I'll say to that is that's what I love about our partnership, because I'm gonna give you the TV version, and sometimes we need that blunt, hardcore truth to really get people to understand how serious this stuff is. So I think we got a good balance going on here. So give me a little bit of that edge. I can use some. Ain't that right, Doc?
and the reason why I'm asking that is because we're in this space, right? When you love what you do so much, and you're in a facility that's underperforming, and a lot of people that are in the field, that's their day-to-day job. Like, they're inundated every day, and a lot of them only have access to doing things in the way that it's been presented. And so that balance of saying, I'm going to give you what you need, and what I will always say, SGG, you got to give them medicine with inside of candy. You got to make it sweet, and then just kind of sauce it in. Derrick, what were some of your harder transitions for you as you transition from being in the field to actually becoming a consultant and a turnaround specialist for SPD departments?
I think the biggest challenge is the level of communication with your frontline staff and teams, and communicating with your upper line leaders and executives. Understanding the importance of withholding information and things that are happening in order to sort out the best opportunities to get the department flowing and moving in a positive direction. Just so balancing that relationship, right? Getting my workers that are constantly complaining, nagging, and saying what it is and what it isn't, what they have, what they don't have, thinking that they have the answers, and understanding that their words and what they're expressing is being heard and is being communicated, but you may not understand what's being communicated coming back down to you. So that has been difficult for me in times, due to the fact that they may not always understand, meaning the frontline teams may not always understand that things are happening, changes are being made, your voice is being heard, but I can't tell you exactly what's happening in the moment.
Well, one thing I can tell you, SGG and Derrick, the reason for this platform is for you to give your unmitigated truth. I don't want you to spare any expense, because at least on this platform, if they're coming to watch our show, they're coming to get that truth. And I believe that on podcasts, we have a lot of politics that are kind of being said. And I think sometimes it's a safe environment to rip the Band-Aid off so that people can actually look at what's really going on so we can actually create the changes that we need. So guess what, y'all? I got our first scenario. Iggy, you know what I need? Iggy, we need like a scenario sound. Like when I say we got our first scenario, we can go like doo-goo-doo-goo-doo-goo-doo-goo-doo, like something like that. I'm feeling something like that. Okay, maybe Derrick can help us out. He got the studio back there. All right, so so SGG, listen, and DJ, we want to talk about scenario one. It was a big question that kept getting asked. It's the pay problem. SPD techs underpaid for critical work. Here's the situation. Many SPD techs feel underpaid compared to the level of responsibility they carry, while hospitals increase salaries for other healthcare roles. SPD wages remain relatively stagnant, despite the increasing complexities of the job and certification requirements. The question is, how can SPD leaders advocate for higher pay and better financial recognition for their teams, especially in a cost-conscious hospital environment today?
Okay, so I've had to deal with this forever. People do not understand, first of all, the importance of what is done in sterile processing. If they understood the importance of what we do, they would be willing to pay us to help them have infection-free lives. But because the hierarchy doesn't understand, they actually grouped us with the group that gets the lowest amount of money in the hospital. They put us, and it's nothing wrong with these departments, but they put us with environmental services. They put us with the kitchen staff. I think everybody should get paid what they're worth, but they put us with groups that don't require as much knowledge and expertise as we really have to have. You see, in our field, we are part of a intricate team that has to work together. You need instruments to do surgery because we're not in Star Trek yet. We don't have a tricorder, and Bones isn't here. So you need instruments to do surgery. You need surgical techs to handle the instruments at surgery, to pass them to the physician. And they get paid. And they don't understand, surgical techs don't think they're getting paid what they're worth either, but they get paid for their expertise. We're the one group that they're not paying us for our expertise, and it's because we're in the United States of America, where this particular job at this time does not require you have a degree. Because if we had to have a degree, they'd have to pay us for going to college and getting the degree. So we don't go to college necessarily and get this training. This training is able to be done without actually going to college. It is more of a OJT training, on the job. You learn the basics and then you do the job. So to pay us, we don't have to have in 45 states a license. You can call Joe Blow off the street, bring him in, say, "Come in here, Joe, and let me show you a couple things," and go.
Hold on now, SGG. We gotta slow down. My favorite song is NDRE, and it says, "Slow down, baby, you're going too fast. You got your hands in the air, your feet on the gas. You about to wreck your future." Slow down, SGG. Now this is why I think it's important, because the whole purpose of SPD 911 is not just to communicate to people in the field, but to bring light to the people that matter, which are the patients, to understand the value. And I'm gonna tell my piece in a second. But for those that don't know, why is that such a big thing for you? Because I hear you talk about that all the time, that in 45 states, there is no certification required. And you sit on it. Can you talk about why that's important?
It's important because we have to know, in this field, we have to know not only how to clean an instrument, we have to know how to check an instrument for workability. We have to know how to process the instrument. We have to know how to keep the instrument. We have to know the instruments, hundreds of thousands of instruments. And this is knowledge that you get on a day-to-day basis as you work. And no one wants to pay me for that expertise. As much as my surgical tech brothers and sisters know instruments, they sometimes have the ability to specialize. And they can tell you, I only do eyes. Well, the SPD tech does not have that ability. We have to know the eye instrument, the ortho instrument, the neuro instrument, the urology instrument. You want me to know all of this, how to clean it, how to know it's working, how to process it, all for $2. And you're paying my brothers and sisters who are handling the instruments $40. It doesn't make sense to me. By making me be required to know the basics, which is what certification is. Certification is having the basic information to handle instruments. Then you get quality. See, you get what you pay for. A patient's life is on the line. You paying me $2 and you want $50 worth of expertise. It doesn't work like that. And even though, and I call it sad, glad, your SPD technicians love what they do, most of them, they will come in and learn that job. They will learn how to handle those instruments. They will put those trays together for those $2 because in America, they need that particular job in order to take care of their family. They have no choice. And so, you know, we're out there doing something that is so important. And the hierarchy doesn't understand always the importance. Now, I've been fortunate to be able to go to C-suite at times and say, you're going to have to pay us more. We're losing people to other hospitals because they're paying more because they realize the importance of paying people. Now, you know, Dr. J, people will say, if it's all about money, yes, it's about money. You need to pay me for my expertise. It is about money.
That's
and
right.
It's about me taking care of the patient. So
right.
The doctor doesn't come in and work for $2.
That's
the
right.
anesthesiologist, one of the highest paid physicians in the United States, they don't put you to sleep for $2. They go by the minute. So my point is, why is it the people handling the instruments before the surgery starts in SPD, are not being paid? And it's because overall, hospitals have grouped us with the wrong group. It's about getting us with the right group. They call us non-clinical. And I think that's the wrong definition because what I'm doing is as clinical as you handling the instruments. And that's okay. Where I'm going to stop at right now.
All right. So I got some pushback. I got some pushback I want to give on the business side. And I will be open and happy to hear you guys take on that. So Derrick, Iggy, put the question back up. DJ, I'm gonna bring the question back. How can SPD leaders advocate for higher pay and better financial recognition for their teams, especially in cost-conscious hospital environment today?
Yep. And just to piggyback, SGG hit it on point. The guru, she's spot on. When I started in SPD, I think the average salary in Missouri was anywhere from $12 to $15 starting entry, and you know you need 2 full-time jobs to pay your apartment rent as an adult. So, but the best thing to do to get our leaders and get our executives to understand what we need is we got to gather the concrete volume evidence, gather the information about how complex the scope of work is that we are actually performing. And then we have to correlate that with patient safety and OR outcomes to be able to tell the story of the importance of our role and all of the things that, as SGG mentioned, that are responsible for ensuring successful outcomes in the OR. At that point, once the executives understand our value, then maybe we can advocate for more money and higher pay rates to get people to, to retain employees in this particular career field.
So
I
so here.
want to say I have advocated. I have brought the CEO to the department to stand in front of the actual team workers and let them tell him, this is what we need. This is why we need it. This is why I want to leave. Now, I happen to have worked the last few years in the DMV, so that's DC, Maryland, and Virginia, where the pay rate is a bit higher than it is in some other areas. And we would constantly have to balance against DC paying people more and people wanting to jump ship. Maryland would come up, DC come up, Virginia come up. So it was a game they were playing. But if they would just decently have a clinical ladder for us, one, be willing to look at the numbers and how important it is of the job that we're doing, they would understand they need to bring us in at a decent rate and pay people what they're worth to take care of your patients. SPD is the heart of the hospital. We touch every part of the hospital in some way or form. This group of people, you cannot find them on the street with a sign saying we'll work for food. They're hard to get quality SPD technicians. And if you get one, you need to try to keep that technician by any means necessary. And the love of the job is one thing. I have passion, but passion didn't pay none of my bills. I couldn't eat with passion. So neither can the doctor. Neither can the CST tech, neither can the first assistant, neither can the anesthesiologist. So why is it, I'm with the group, that you want me to work for nothing? You have to be willing to raise the bar, and it happens to be with money.
And y'all, I'm just, for everyone that's looking on right now, this show is going to be a little bit lengthy because I got some questions that we got to get out. We have to make up for last week. So just hang tight. We're going to have us a party today because in this space, now I have my business hat on, right? Because I want to give you guys pushback for the dialogue of the community. First and foremost, a lot of people ask for raises or ask for, things without fully understanding the history of changing of pricing, pays, and everything. I always say, if you study your history, you can dictate the future in some capacity and at some volume, or at least be able to mitigate a lot of mistakes that can happen. And so with SIPS being one of the pioneers of traveling technicians, one of the biggest mandates that SIPS has when we displace our technicians into the field is that they have to be certified. Matter of fact, prior to 2010, the notion of traveling technicians wasn't really a thing. You had consultants, advisors, but you didn't technically have traveling technicians. Then you went to this phase between 2010 and 2014 when this new raising tide of technicians that travel began to be a thing. Okay. And so SIPS was a large reason of a lot of pioneering in that space. And there's a lot of people's independent companies that got started that came through SIPS in the function that we have. Hey, bless the industry. But the biggest focus is the missing is our founder, Karen Cherry Brown, where she said, you can't travel unless you're certified. And I know for a fact that you know what you can do. And the issue that I'm seeing as a businessman, and you guys let me know, and I think that this may be a reason. I would like to hear y'all's response to this. When we talk about, hey, hospital C-suite, they're not respecting us. We should get paid more. And to their point, they say, oh, we tried. We tried 2017 to 2022. We adopted this traveling SPD world. We paid y'all $50, $60 an hour. We tried. We paid who was considered to be the best. And y'all staffing agencies, y'all's consulting firms, y'all sent people in here that were supposed to be certified, that was supposed to be experienced, that are worse off than the staff that's actually at our facility. So when you say pay more, we paid you more. And some people have even built six-figure companies, and some are even permanent contractors because they like to negotiate higher prices. So in that case, how would you defend that, Sharon Greene-Golden and DJ that says, hey, we've tried it. We paid y'all a lot, and it broke the hospital system. We're reverting back to internal staff building because obviously the certified people that y'all say are certified there's no proof that they actually are really good at what they do. So the people that y'all deem that are the best of you were actually some of the worst of you. So how do we actually combat that? Because yes, everyone complains about getting paid more, but the real truth is, where is the accountability of high quality technicians being put into the field, and who's holding people accountable? Because all tides rise all boats in both good and negative light. So can y'all talk about what that is and how can we combat that, or what you would do as SGG and DJ to combat that for those business executives that think like I do?
Well, for one thing, during the time that they started really needing traveling technicians, they needed them because they couldn't get technicians in their local area because there were none there. What they didn't necessarily do was vet the people they were getting. They didn't set their standards as far, this is my opinion, high enough to say, I want the best of the best. Some people, so let me just put it this way. You can read a book and take a test and get certified and not know your head from your behind. Okay? So certification, as I say, and I will always be on the record, is the basic knowledge of what we do. What you need is experience. You need to actually be in there doing the work. So we got traveling techs, and they harped on the word certified and not on the word certified with experience. Certified with experience and knowledge. Certified with experience, knowledge, and some vetting. Did you really go and check where Sharon Greene-Golden worked at before? Did you check to see that she know what she was doing before you brought her on to pay her? Yes, the pay for traveling techs went high. And I've had a few traveling techs in my time. I was not willing to have traveling techs. Why? Because I found that the few I had in the beginning were not qualified to be in my department. And I felt that if you come in as a traveling tech, you should be able to work anywhere in that department I need you to work, and I don't need to train you. You come already trained. All I have to tell you is where the locker room is, where the toilet is, and go to decontam. You know the process. But what I found is that I got techs who were asking the people getting $2, how do you do this? What is this tray? How do you put this tray together? And so now I had to battle between someone getting $40 an hour against somebody getting $18 an hour, and you're asking me questions all the time. And that is where the painful realization came, that we were not putting always, and this is in general, people, don't start writing me letters, that we were not always putting quality people in the field. Everyone that was traveling didn't know what they were doing. Everyone that was traveling had not ever been in an SPD long enough to know, what do you do when you recall a load?
That's right.
Everyone traveling didn't know how to clean instruments, so they put a bad light on us.
That's right.
In general. And so, yes, administrators were like, I'm paying you. But, you know, I just want to say what you were paying us as traveling techs, and you talked about the budget and how the budget was busted, was nowhere near what you were paying other travelers from other entities. So the bottom line is you had to pay somebody, but it was your responsibility. We talk about accountability, which means responsibility, accepting responsibility for your actions. Did you actually vet this person? Don't take me in because I said I got 2 years and you see I've been certified for 2 years. Do you see where I worked anywhere for 2 years and actually did some work? Do you see my evaluations? Did you ask the right questions? No, you didn't. You know, I didn't like virtual interviews because you could not see what a person knew. I need you to come into my department. I need to give you the craniotomy tray. I need to watch you put that tray together. Now I know what you can do. Over the phone, you sound good. On paper, my resume looks beautiful. But do I really know how to paint a picture? No, I don't. So the bottom line is the CEOs, COOs, human resources has to take responsibility for what happened during that time because they didn't do their due diligence. They have to accept the consequences for their actions and not put all SPD technicians in the same bowl because we're not there. You have quality travelers out here who have experience, who know what they're doing, who are willing to do what's right, but you have to be willing to do your homework.
DJ?
And what I'll say to that is, and this is just my opinion, but I believe the industry, the career field of SPD is purging itself of a lot of people that were grandfathered in, brought up through housekeeping or EVS or the dietary, and just placed in these positions. And once they were able to discover that there are more pay opportunities as a traveler, all you have to say is I have experience. But like Ms. Greene-Golden mentioned, it may be bad experience, right? So then you begin to spread all of these bad habits and poor training techniques that you developed all across the country because this particular hospital needs a technician because 4 or 5 technicians walked out and they need help. So there's a lack of ability to do onboarding, training. The supervisors don't have time to properly vet this traveler or agency staff that's coming in to support. So it gets to the point, hey, we're suffering, just go and decontam and we hope for the best. And then when it's time to renegotiate or get a contract extension, the hospital is at a point where they're like, hey, we would do without the traveling agency because it's costing more and we're still having some of the same challenges. So I just think that now that there is a light, thanks to Miss SGG and all of our pioneers, Karen Cherry, that really put a light on the SPD industry, and with HSPA, we are really helping express or show and put on display the crucial skill, technique, and training that's needed to really get our technicians up to speed on performing these day-to-day duties and responsibilities.
And Dr. Jake, this the reality is, and I said it, I keynoted the HSPA meeting a few years back.
Okay.
And what I said is, we're in America, y'all. It's gonna require that we get a degree to get the money that we require. They don't want to pay us with just a little certification class. They don't want to. They want us to go and come in with some letters behind our name, and then they're willing to pay a bit more. It's sad that that's what you have to do. But I said to the team, you need to understand as we go forward in this world and in this life, what we did in the past is not acceptable anymore.
That's right.
Yes, you can train a person to work in SPD if they're willing to be committed to the job, if they're willing to understand the importance of the job, if they're willing to learn the instructions for use and do what they have to do. But the bottom line is that in the United States, where it should be required in every state that we be certified, we're dealing with instruments going into somebody's body at some point. Every tray I put together touches somebody's body.
That's right.
You should require that I have some official knowledge, just like you want the RN, the LPN, the CNA, the doctor, the anesthesiologist, the tattoo artist, the dog groomer. That's just a dog. I'm just saying, you don't want me to know anything, and I can hinder your life. Not that we do, but I can. And the bottom line is, we don't want to be the outlier reason for a patient having an infection. So it requires the education, it requires the time, it requires the commitment. And people have to have clarity about what their job is, Dr. Jake. Clarity means, do you know what is expected of you?
Yep. And I think that One of the biggest things as we're working with some of the, the most prestigious hospital systems in the country, and we're helping them truly build like pathways, true development pathways within their organization. I think that now, to your point, and I'm glad I asked that antagonistic a type of question to get you to kind of respond, because that's what we're doing. We're building up these pathways here. I don't mind anyone with just a certification being started off entry level. I don't mind it, but as they are, and this is my take. If the hospital system were to be proactive in the development of their team, their staff, and their professionals within their system, and then that person decides to opt into the development programming, trainings, as they complete and show thyself approved, it should come with a raise, because the cost variance of bringing in new temporary staffing to a culture you're trying to build, and then having those temporary staff leave and then hire people from the street, that's a total different organization. I don't care if you have the same leaders. That organization starts back over from scratch. And so it is my plea that one, central sterile processing technicians, professions, managers, leaders should be petitioning to their upline, to their leadership. We need more development, because this is no longer a trade. This is a profession. We have people that have PhDs, doctorate level, MBAs that are now wanting to lead SPD departments, that are now being put in place to be inside of central sterile processing departments. And as we see the change with technology, with automation, with AI, with all of these integrations of the outside world coming into SPD, bringing a more complex construct of running an organization versus the simplistic form that we have known it to be, is forcing executives to take another look. Like you say, the view through my window, SGG, is taking a view through the new window of SPD to see it is not like the SPD of old. It is the SPD of new. But also with that, we need to make sure that we're advocating to SPD technicians all over the country that certifications alone, and I will say this to any industry, is not enough. Certifications alone is not enough. I'm sorry. You can, and I've literally sat in front of leaders. They have every letter on the book, what we call in our industry the gold standard. But when I ask them basic leadership development, managerial questions, change management questions, it overwhelms them. And when I'm talking, if I was your upline leadership, I'm like, those 3 certifications you got is not like the FOSSI. Because if it were like that, I would look at it different. But your responses to me, how you communicate, your emotional intellect, how you develop and how you train and how you build change management within your organization. Everyone used the theme lean systems, lean management. We all use these terminologies, but the actual context of the implementation of those terminologies or those frameworks is different than people being able to tell the definition. And I think that we have to also advocate when we talk about accountability. Accountability also has to be on our side. What is your development track? Are you just trying to check off the certifications just so that you can say you got them? Or are you truly mastering every single phase of your development so that when you do get a leader that speaks to you, they can see that bounds before anything, you're different? Because there are SPD technicians that do get paid well. There are managers that do get a good check. There are directors that do have respect and that do have signing ability. So if you do not have that inside your organization, the question is, am I truly developed as much as I think that I am? And I think that the problem is, SGG and DJ, we have to move on. I think that we're believing our own press. We're believing the resume that we give to our interviewer and not understanding that there's a lot of development that's required and needed. And I before we move on, I do have to ask DJ this question specifically, because you're in the field, you're helping us turn around SPD. We have a saying here that we have our motto that we turn SPDs from cost centers to profit centers, and getting the executives to start looking at the profit is made in periop in SPD. The profit is made in SPD. OR, they generate the revenue, but the profit is made in SPD. So the type of quality of leaders that's needed there is just as important to inundate the SPD with just as great of talent and pay as well as the OR. So DJ, I've got a question for you. How often do you find when we're trying to place managers and leaders in positions that their resume says that they're qualified, but when you interview them and you see them live on site, their resume doesn't match up with what they do every day?
It's quite often, unfortunately. I'm almost wondering if the managers that I'm interviewing, when some of them speak to some of their experience as managers or supervisors out in the field and past experience as it relates to their resume, if it is task-based. If they manage the task, but they put that task to speak for their whole experience as being a manager, you know what I mean? Is it task specific? Maybe they were a project manager, but perpetrating as a department manager. Because it shows, because when we begin to have the high level discussions about where the department is, where we desire it to go, some of the assignments or projects that we need them to come in and be a part of and support and foster to move in the right direction, you begin to see the disconnect. You start to identify the lack of experience in communicating or being able to execute. So, and it helps me because with the experience, I am able to identify if they're a good candidate or not based on the level of discussion that you have during the interview process. So there are a lot of managers and supervisors out here who's padding the stats. And when you have a good team like ours,
hold on one second.
Yeah.
Slow down, baby. When you say padding the stats, because here, the purpose of SPD 911 SGG is to rip off that Band-Aid.
Yes.
Because when you're dealing with people that know the business of SPD or the business of healthcare, we know a stat pattern. So when you say padding the stats, DJ, what exactly do you mean padding the stats? In SGG, I will be happy to hear your response to what he said.
Well, just giving false information on involvement in processes. So just giving a high level statement of saying, hey, I was involved in a campus renewal project, but can't provide details of what that entailed, can't provide the processes that come about to ensure, or can't speak to AMI standards, guidelines, compliance, can't speak to regulatory and best practices for
that's what makes SGG
areas
mad.
within the department. And I'll let her pick up because I know she got that pretty good.
They can't speak to the rules of the job. They are going by hearsay. Somebody told me when I was in the SPD, this is what you do. They have not even taken the time to study and to learn what it requires. They have no real experience. You come into a SPD on a Monday morning and your OR, the walls are wet and the instruments are wet. What do? They have not a clue because see, that wasn't in the book. That comes with experience. That wasn't in the book. They just know that, oh, we got problems and the OR is tearing everything open. What do you do? What do you do to facilitate that tragic event to help us move forward? They do pad their resumes to say what they've read in some resume book. I bring them in, Dr. Jake, and say, I'm gonna stand right here, and here's the scenario, and what do we do? There's water running out the department and decontaminants running down the hall. What are we gonna do? And I've had people tell, well, we're gonna get the wet vac. We're gonna get some towels and put them on the floor. No, boo, you're gonna go find the water source and cut it off. See, you won't know that if you never had that experience, if you
That's
never
right.
paid attention and said, what do you do when you never thought about the scenario? How do you cut the machines off if there's a problem? Where are the cutoff boxes? Where are the junctions? What do you do? But that comes with experience. And so we have people out here who, under the title, they did manage something. I don't know. They managed some people coming to work, and their job was to make sure people went to lunch on time, but they never truly managed the process of sterile processing, which requires you do all of these different steps to get the product to the OR. So the quality is not always there. And the problem, Dr. Jake, is that we are aging out. SPD is aging out. You have some people who've been there as long as me, and I'm old. And we need to age out because we don't want to change and we don't want to learn anything new. But we do not have an influx of new blood because, and I'm hoping that we work on this more, we're not out there in the communities and in the high schools saying, this is something you can learn to do, and this can be a stepping stone to something else. I want you to know I brought people in and trained them, and I trained them with this thought. You don't always have to stay in SPD if that's not your true passion. Maybe you want to be a CST, but let's learn the instruments first. Let's learn care of instruments. Let's learn this basic job first. And you can always become a CST. You can become a first assistant. I've had many technicians under my tutelage who are nurses. I have a couple that are doctors. I have some that are doing other things. They're CSTs, they're surgical first assistants, because that's what I told them. Always aim for the sky, but you have to start somewhere. But you need, but we don't always have those ladders. And I saw someone answering clinical ladders for anybody to grow.
That's good.
And my generation, where we went to work and worked 30, 40 years, and then we retired, that's not today's generation. They give you 2 years, maybe, they moving on. They need to be able to grow. And so hospitals have not allowed us in SPD, some people don't write me letters, in general, have not allowed us to have the clinical ladders that we need to foster a beginning SPD tech, a tech 1, tech 2, tech 3, and pay them accordingly, and then encourage them to learn more and to get the certifications, not just for a certification, but to enhance their ability to process trades better.
Yes. And this is the biggest thing with our Next Step Leadership programming implementing inside of hospitals. Is not putting the emphasis on the promotion and the raise on the certification itself, but the experience or the knowledge base that comes with the certification in practice. And I think that that's the change, because if hospital systems or any organization focused on, if I were to turn my department into a learning center where we're always developing, we call it our Next Step Leadership program. That means that I know I'm going to get 2 or 3 years out of somebody great unless I have another promotion for them. That means that next step leadership, I can't wait until they leave. I have to be programmed and active in developing that talent, which takes me actually to this next one, because I think it transitions perfectly well into this one with the scenario number 2, doing more with less mentality, increasing workloads without increasing support. And here's the situation. Hospitals now are demanding faster turnaround times. SGG, hold on. Faster turnaround times, more accountability, and stricter compliance standards, but without increasing FTEs, upgrading outdated systems, or providing additional training. SPD techs are being asked to perform at a higher efficiency levels without the necessary resources. The question to you two is, how can SPD departments push back against unrealistic hospital expectations and advocate for the right tools, training, and staffing to meet these demands?
Number one, you have to do the hard thing, and that's you have to inform people. Ignorance is not a defense. And what you don't know, but that's not a defense. So you have got to, as an SPD manager, It was my fiduciary job to let anybody know what we needed to function. My number one team member was infection control. You worried about infections? Let me tell you why we might have some. I got 3 people working and they're trying to do 50 cases a day. It's not going to happen. We cannot do it. We cannot function. And just giving me a body is not the answer. I need quality people. Giving me a body is part of the problem.
Okay, hold on, SGG. Hold on. Oh, this is good. Derrick, chime in. She says, giving me a body is not the answer. And you being in the field every day, can you talk about the stresses that you deal with when a body is just throwing at you?
Well, so throw the body. Wait a minute.
Pause.
The problem, right? The concern with that is you really don't have the opportunity to develop a strategic plan to fix whatever challenges is you're having in that moment by just throwing the body in there. You don't begin to develop. I mean, there's no time. You're just resolving in the moment, or you're responding to something in a moment. And the biggest thing you need to do is, that's just the crowd sound. But I think also it's just, in order for this to happen or to help, we got to provide just clear-cut evidence and of how understaffing, whether it's or under resources, if it's staff, if it's equipment, supplies, the lack of a cart washer. I mean, we got to really, in the end, correlate that to how it impacts the hospital operation and patient safety. That is the only way we're going to be able to help them understand how staffing is important to achieve the ultimate outcome, and that's quality care in the operating room. You can't get your scope if I got to pull the scope technician to work in Deacon Town because we got 8,000 trays and 20 of them are turnarounds. So it's really about just providing that evidence to the leadership team and our executives to understand what the outcomes would look like if we just don't consider the full complexity of the operation.
And now, SGG, back to you, SGG.
You have to talk to them in a language they understand. Sentinel events, lawsuits. Let's talk about it. When you give me somebody that isn't qualified just so I have an FTE and I do not have the opportunity to train or to make sure this person can do one job, you put the whole hospital on the road. Because if we have a high infection rate, and now in states you can read the infection rate of every hospital, and patients read how many infections you got, they're not coming to your hospital. So the bottom line is that you have got to give me people who, once they're there, I can continuously educate, motivate, and stimulate them to do the right thing, to know the importance. The biggest problem in SPD is that people do not always understand the importance of the job they are doing every day. I say it over and over again. What we do matters every day. You don't have a down day. Every day, you've got to be sure that that tray is done correctly every day. So to my C-suite, I can't always go to the C-suite, but I can get infection control down to SPD and say, let me show you. And I mean, you can't always just talk. Have it written, have the standards to back it up. This is what it says we're supposed to do. We're not doing these 2 steps right here because I don't have nobody. Did you realize that we're not soaking instruments for 5 minutes because every time we turn around, they just tell us, just give it to them? Did you realize we're not following best practice standards, infection control? Don't call after the patient got infection and ask me what had happened. I'm telling you, before it happens, we're going to have a sentinel event because we're not doing it right. You know, people are scared to call the 911 number at the hospital where you report your hospital because they want to keep their job. So you're putting people in the position of having to look at their integrity and make a decision. Do I report us or do I just do what they say? You know, I know a place where they were washing eye instruments with no cleaning agent. Now, y'all know that's just wrong, but that's what they did. And I had a person that told me, she says, they're paying me good money, but I can't stay here because what we're doing is wrong. And they won't hear it. So, you know, the bottom line is that you're asking, what do we do to push back? As a manager, I can only push so far, but I can work with the people who can push harder by making them know this is where I stand. And right now, to anyone that's out there in general, infection control should be your best partner. Your best partner. I told somebody, this is off the line, but I told a doctor when I was diagnosed with cancer, I said, I prefer quality over quantity. If I'm going to be sitting with my head in the toilet, that's not quality like living. So I'd rather live less and have quality than live long with my head in the toilet. So what we want in SPD is we want quality because the patient deserves quality over quantity. So if you cannot give me quality people, then we've got to work on that. Don't just give me anybody because anybody's going to sink that ship. And that is what's happening at a lot of hospitals. The ship is sinking and they're like, we got people, but you don't have quality. And I, as a manager, I can't be the manager, the worker bee, the answerer, I'm putting out fires all day long. I'm running around. I'll never get to take my fireman hat off because I'm putting fires out all day long. And it's just not, I'm not able to keep up with it. And so what happens is that you lose sometimes a good manager because I finally say, I'm done.
Yeah.
I can't stay here no longer.
Yeah.
And so, because I cannot stay here to motivate people with an administration that will not listen to be better. They only listen to put out the fire. And once the fire is out and infection rate go down a little bit, they start saying, thank you, Jesus, we're doing better. We're not doing better. We just didn't infect anybody as a hospital for this month.
Yeah.
And so,
that's
you know,
good.
that's where I'm at.
Yeah, and I think that on our last podcast on Bread to Lead, that dropped yesterday, I talked about the importance of third party transparency, which is why I truly believe like the educators, your quality assurance techs, and maybe even infection control, if it was from a third party, now you no longer have them feeling like if I tell the truth, I'm going to lose my job. Now you have people coming in. It's like, no, this person's not up to standard. This person's not up to standard. And these are your supervisors. Those are the conversation that needs to be had. And for the hospitals that's looking to create real change, that's why they hire us. Because they know when we coming in, we're coming in to tell the truth.
And that's the odd thing. That's the odd thing. They won't listen to me, tell them the truth, but they'll pay a consultant thousands of dollars to come and tell them what I've been saying for years. And then they want to try to get rid of folks and fix things all at one time when we could have fixed this in incremental steps had they just listened. Because I told you we need a washer. You want to pay somebody $1,000 to come in and say you need a washer. You need to have 10 people. All you have is 2. There's no way you're going to do this with 2 people. But Miss Golden's been sitting here saying, I need more people, quality people, and they won't listen.
And this goes to,
until there's a sentinel event. Get a sentinel event. Everybody starts listening.
Yep. And one of the things that I know that SCG, you talk now more than ever, and Derrick also too, is we talk about, especially to our leaders that are in the field, you got to build a paper trail of evidence and back it with Amy. If Amy's our Bible, I build a paper trail of evidence and I back it with Amy standards to say, hey, because I just can't go to senior leadership and say, I need more people. We need more technology. We need more this, because every department inside the healthcare system is saying the same thing. So you have to be able to back it. And one thing I loved that SGG did in one of our conversations with one of our clients, she said, listen, I hear you want us to do more, but Amy's standards say that we can only do 4 at this per this. And they were trying to, she said, I hear what you're saying, but I want for the record to show that we're telling you that Amy's standards suggest that we can only do 4 in this period. You cannot do this. So you can't cross productivity. You can't make this person go over here. They have to stay here and inspect this specific instrument. I won't say the instrument because this is what is the standard. It made them uncomfortable. And it put a lot of pressure on me and the executive team to figure it through. But in truth, we have to stand on the truth of standards. That's the only way that we can be able to grow it. Let's continue. Let's keep going. So this is good. So I do have another scenario. Now, y'all know that some of our service lines is in temporary staffing. We talk about the difference of plugging the hole versus bridging the gap. Temp staffing plugs the hole. You get in there, you plug the hole, you have the bleeding, you're hemorrhaging, things are great. But there's a difference between plugging the hole and having people in your department that can bridge the gap, which means find the infection in the department, cure it, nurture the department back to health, and then have it in a better state than we have it. And so I do want to address this because I do like to talk about the difference in quality versus quantity. So it's the temp worker dilemma. And I know I'm going to step on some people's shoes and toes, but we're in the same game too. So it's okay, baby. You can be mad at us, but just pray about it. Here's the situation. Many hospitals rely on temporary SPD techs to fill staffing gaps. But these temps often lack, we talked about this earlier, proper training, don't follow protocol, or make costly mistakes that lead to surgical delays that cost money, everybody, or safety risk. Full-time techs then have to fix these errors, leading to frustration and added stress. This is from somebody in our group. The question was, how can SPD leaders ensure quality and accountability when using temporary staffing solutions without overloading their permanent team? Now, if you've already answered it, just answer it again. I just want the person who asked the question to have their question answered directly.
First of all, bringing in temporary people, as you vet them and get ready to bring them to your team, you need to be sure that that temporary team member, number one, has clarity. They know what is expected of them from the beginning. I expect you to work decontam when I ask you. I expect you to be able to put trays together. I expect you to be able to run the steam sterilizer, the low temperature sterilizer, pick cases, take cases to the OR. You have to be specific. This is my expectation of you as a temporary worker. Now, I expect you to be able to put together L&D trays, neuro trays, robotic trays, hard trays. They raise their hand and say, wait a minute, I haven't done nothing but an L&D tray. Well, now you know that they're not going to meet your expectations before you bring them in to stand next to your permanent person. The next thing you have to have is communication with that person on an ongoing basis. This is going to be the expectation. I'm going to be checking on you all the time. I need for you to do your job correctly at all times for the team and for our patients. This is back to my expectation. We're going to collaborate about things. Do you really know what you're supposed to do in decon? Because some techs have not really worked in decon. They're traveling, but they tell you, all I did was put trays together. Well, no, here I'm going to need you to be a multi-skilled, multi-specialty technician, meaning we do all the jobs. We rotate all the jobs. So you're not coming into my institution telling me what you will and won't do. I'm telling you what is expected, or maybe I cannot take you on. And then you have to be sure with your temporary staffing that you explain to them the consequences for their actions if they don't meet your expectations. It all boils down to accountability. And you cannot hold your permanent staff accountable if you will not set the rules. And my word is the rules of engagement in place for the temporary staff that you're bringing in and paying quality money to work. That's my opinion. Derrick?
DJ?
All right. So I'm gonna represent for the agency staffing on this one, because number one, thorough onboarding of agency staffing is needed in pretty much all of the locations or hospitals I've worked in. Often because we are looking for agency to come in and fix and do an immediate fix, whatever the area it is that we need them in, they are always often skipped by just getting a tour of the department, understand the case volumes, understanding expectations. Sometimes they're just often thrown into the fire and expected to work miracles, but when they make that one mistake, we're holding them accountable and they didn't have a fair onboarding. Number two, balancing the workload. The agency staff isn't brought in to fix everything. They're coming in to support the department in the areas that they're challenged in. So as our leaders, our supervisors, our lead techs, we cannot take advantage of just because we have an agency technician. We're just going to stick them in the unfavorable areas, the decontam, or work on all of the loaners. So without that onboarding, without that training, and then not balancing the workload, you're going to get defects. You're going to get issues and errors with trays. And then finally, treating that agency technician as part of the team. So what is 13 weeks? We need, for this 13 weeks, we need you to be a part of assisting us in getting the trays reprocessed, providing great quality to our patients. We need to focus on making them feel a part of the team and not isolate it as, hey, this is just an agency worker. Just put them in that area. They'll be gone soon. So those are just a few. Ms. Greene-Golden already mentioned clear communication, and all of those other areas. Here she comes.
What you got,
SGG?
What you got?
Come on with it.
Hold up. Let me just clarify something. When I bring you in as a traveler, you're supposed to come in knowing what to do in sterile processing. I'm not here to train you. I'm sorry, Derrick, I disagree. I'm not here to train you at time on how to work in SPD. I'm paying you $40 an hour. You should know how to clean the faucet. Okay? I don't have time to teach you. I'm working with the permanent staff teaching, and I brought you in because you could come in this temporary moment and go to decontam and clean, not me go with you. Now, I'm just saying, I understand that you may not know everything, but you said on your resume, you was an SPD traveler. You've been 5 hospitals. You know what you're doing. I expect you to stand up to your resume.
I need a buzzer.
So for travelers to say they came in and expected me to work in decon, well, then you need to come up and say, well, I'm a traveler who has never worked decon. I can only assemble. Now remember clarity. Know what's expected, Derrick. Know what's expected. Clarity.
No, we gonna argue on this one.
Listen, this thing about being family, I'm all about us being family. And I believe that we should be a team and we should be family. But I should be able to put you, this is just my wish list for traveling tech. I don't want you if you can't work every area of SPD. I don't want you because I am already bleeding. And the reason I got a traveling tech was to help us keep up. And so if the only job you can do is pick case carts, I don't need you. I needed somebody in decontam. I needed somebody assembling trays. All you can do is pick cases. I don't need you.
All
And
right,
so
all right, listen.
if you're
Go
gonna be
ahead,
a
Gigi.
traveling tech, I'm just saying this is my opinion, traveling techs.
Yeah.
If you're gonna put on the big hat and say I'm all that and a bag of chips, be sure you're all that and a bag of chips and stand up to your resume. No, I don't think it's fair to put you in decontam every day, but in my hospital, we rotate it. Be willing to be in the rotation. That's how you become part of the team. By be willing to be in the rotation and not being a prima donna and saying I can only assemble.
All right,
I
DJ,
agree.
what you got? Punch back.
What I'll say that I agree. I was just say that don't throw me in decontam with 800 case carts and trays, and then everybody walk out and go to break. That's what's happening.
That's true. That's not acceptable on any day.
That's going on break, right?
There we go.
There's a level of mistreatment with travelers in most places, and the expectation is for your permanent staff to do minimum work, or they reduce, even in the event that you brought the travelers in to support and help dig you out of troubled situations. But there's this level of thought that, hey, we're just going to throw him in decontam for 13 weeks and he work on all the trades that no one likes to do.
And we get a break.
And we go on the break. We're going to lunch.
That's wrong. That's wrong.
Yeah.
That's why that's why you heard me say the word communication. You have to bring everybody together, the whole team, and say, hey, Dr. Jake has joined the team. He's now in the rotation. So now we got another person in the rotation.
There you go.
It's not relieving you from nothing.
I agree.
If I relieve you, I'm going to relieve you from your job.
That's right.
If you need that much relief, you're going to have to go. So the bottom line is Dr. Jake's in the rotation. We only had 3 people. Now we got 4.
And that was the point that I was actually going to make. I think that both of you are making 2 solid points that can both be true. One, Derrick is talking about onboarding as such, as the same way that you are onboard an employee should be the same way that you onboard somebody into your rotation. Hey, this is our culture. This is our standard. Like you said, SCG, this is our expectation. And then you tell the team, hey, this person, like in baseball, if you got somebody who's a bunting specialist, they can bunt their butt off. They may come in and just come off and just bunt, and then they go back into the dugout. Or they may just be a pinch runner. Their job, they're the fastest one. You got a slugger they got on first base, but he's slow. So you're going to get that pinch runner on that first base and let him go. So I think that both are right. Derrick, you're absolutely right. We have seen instances where staff will say, you're getting paid $30, $40 an hour. So I'm only getting paid 18. So you should be able to do double the work, figure it out. And so you have travelers that are there that get burnt out. And so this is the thing that it comes about playing a part of the team. If I'm coming on as a traveler, I need to know I'm a part of this existing team. I'm not a hero. I'm not a contractor. I'm not somebody. Once you decide to take that account or that contract, yes, technically you may be a contractor, but inside of that department, you're a part of that team. And being able to still understand, back to SGG's point, if you're going to travel, you of anybody should know regulation standards and all of the recommended and required standards that it takes to be able to ensure patient safety, which means it doesn't matter if you're coming in for 13 weeks or 26 weeks or not. I should get the best of you, not the rest of you, because you're rested. You coming in, and then and I saw that I saw Regina made a great point. And then as a manager and as a leader, we have to be proactive on the account. If I have cavalry that is there to help us, we don't sit on our laurels. You build the culture of your organization. So when that contractor leaves, if they leave, you are able to build the development of that staff or that team the entire way. And that's a lot of the things that we do inside of SIPs within hospitals. We may bring in our transition temp staff, our SIP SEALs, to be able to plug the gap. But we're still working and developing your current core team so that we can actually bridge the gap. So when we leave, you don't feel that effect. And all too often, we do feel that when travelers come in that are good, I'm not talking about the low performers. I'm talking about the ones that are good. They do get burnt out. they do get treated like crap.
Yes.
They do get treated like mud on the side of the road that stinks really bad. They do. But then on the other side, that person coming in, this is why I tell people, if you want to get paid that much, leave your family and travel across the United States. You leave your comfort zone. If you want to get paid $50 an hour, you have to leave. You can't just be like, hey, I'm comfortable where I am. You have to go to Washington. You got to go to Boston. You got to go to Texas. You got to go to Florida. You got to go to the places that typically are, though, in some of the, I wouldn't say worst conditions, SGG, but need the most help. Because your facilities like yours may not have needed travelers because you had a proactive manager that was measuring and managing what God gave her to oversee. And I'm going to end with that in a second. I'm going to end with some shine on now. Go ahead.
Well, hold up. I also believe that travelers have to understand a hero is a sandwich. Ooh. Don't come in with that hero mentality.
That's
I
good.
came to save the day. You can't save the day up in here. I already know we're a mess. So you came in to help us to do better. And I want you to know that as a manager who has had some travelers, if I got a good traveler, I spent my time making them part of the team, making them happy, because at the end of the day, I was trying to lure them off the traveling track to become permanent.
That's right.
Because when I see good potential and good people and I see a gym, I was trying to tell them, listen, you need to stop traveling. Let me see what I can do. You need to come and stay here with me.
Come on home, baby. Come on home.
So the
they don't love you like
me.
me.
Listen, the bottom line is I was trying to ring them in to keep them if they were good. But I also told them, and I can't get past that word clarity, what my expectations were. And I didn't expect them to be no hero, because if we had heroes, we would all put hero across our chest. So you can't be a hero. Don't come in and tell me you can put 45 trays together in 8 hours. That's not what I brought you here for.
That's right. And I think clear. And I think to move on, we have one more point. I told y'all this one will be a little bit longer, just simply because we want to make up for missing last week. I do want to say this, and I do want to add this. And Donnie and Karen Cherry Brown said it right. Y'all, if we want the industry, our profession, our space, this is the business of SPD is a multi-billion-dollar industry. And it's growing by 5% every year over the next 10 years that is projected. So what does this mean? If we all just work together, to add value together in the departments together,
yes,
then we can together be able to in sync get senior leadership and executives to say, you know what, we need to pay more. But when you have, because we have had leadership level travelers coming to accounts with us and wanting to make themselves look good, where they will burn us, the company, as well as their supporting cast, just so they can stabilize their own position and take care of themselves. And yes, in the interim, it may have paid you right, but you just destroyed any of the executive's thought process on any SPDs or travelers or technicians or talented people. And now they have a sour stain in their mouth because you did wrong. And so this is what I want to say. You looked out for yourself. So this is what I want to say. For anybody in SPD, I don't care if you're a tech one or you're an executive director. Can we just get along? Like the world is already hard outside the hospital streets. But while we're inundated in there, can we just focus on the patients? Can we just focus on the patients? You're getting paid to do your job. You said yes to your hourly rate or your contract. And if you said yes to it, it had to be good enough for you to say yes. So don't have an attitude at the very same thing you said yes to, because that's important. Now I got to get to a fear. I gotta bring up a fear. Hold on. Let me bring up my sound. Hold on, here we go. So here's a scary fear. Technology. Ooh, AI. Automation. Ooh. Someone said, here's the situation, Dr. Jake. With advancements in AI-driven tracking systems, robotics, and sterilization, in automation replacing manual tasks, many SPD professionals worry about job security. Some hospitals are prioritizing automation investments over hiring and training people, leading to uncertainty about the future. The question is, how can SPD professionals adapt and stay relevant in a healthcare system that is increasingly relying on automation and AI for sterile processing? There's the
Automation,
question.
automation is as good as automation. You will always need the human factor, period. When the machines stop working, you're going to need me to manually clean the instruments. So automation is needed, and it has helped us to do a better job. But to say that you're going to bring in a washer and get rid of an FTE doesn't even make good sense. Because when the washer's down, you have nothing. So automation we need. It helps us to do our job better.
Better. That's right.
It helps us to be better. And so we need automation. I need a boroscope to check the cannulated instruments to be sure they're clean. I need washer decontaminators. I need a cart washer to keep me off my knees washing and cleaning carts. So by the time I stand up, I can't put a tray together. But to think that automation is going to get rid of the basic processes of sterile processing, that's living in the clouds. That's not going to happen. So what we have to do is stay aware, managers, directors, stay on top of what automation is up and coming, study, know what's there, be willing to adapt to change as needed, be willing to advocate. They got the machine that can count the instruments and put them in the basket. See if your hospital will spend that $300,000 to buy that machine. Because at the end of the day, part of our problem in SPD is that we want some automation. We want some updated equipment. They don't want to pay the money it costs to get it for us. And we could do a better job if we had better machinery. But you will never be able to get rid of the human factor that has to check an instrument, even though it was in a washer decontaminated and it came out still dirty. So understand you have to know what's out there, what's up and coming, and be willing to speak to it, to your administration. As they say, I heard there's this machine. You need to be ready to jump on and say, yeah, it's out there. But let me tell you the good and the bad.
That's right. That's good. Now, SGG. Now, that's how you answer the question. Go ahead, DJ.
Uh-huh. So what we'll have to realize, and what most people have to realize, is AI is just another area of technology, but we've been evolving throughout our entire existence. We went from hand washing with no automated washers to an automated washer. That's mechanical, that's equipment. We went from not using a boroscope to using one to identify things. So, and we went from other forms. We went from writing and checking off instruments on a sheet of paper to utilizing a tracking system. That's evolving. So AI is just another technology that we can use to make our processes more efficient, make our jobs more accurate and safer, so that we can provide the best quality product. And we have to teach our technicians and people to be willing to adjust, to get the additional training, to go back to school, to learn the AI technology, to take courses on AI technology and evolve with the processes, the job, and the equipment that we're taking on. So it's really about just making people comfortable with just the different changes that are coming. Nothing is happening overnight. So we are given time to adjust. But as leaders, we have to also empower our teams to be able to take these additional courses, get the training, bring vendors in to help us learn this technology so that we can evolve with the technology and show our value to our hospital executives as to we can work with the equipment as well, if that makes sense.
And
this is
understand, AI makes mistakes too. TOO. You can't just rely on AI. So you have to know what's going on so that you know when a mistake has been made. So there is value in us still being there. Never underestimate the value of me being there with the automation and with the AI.
and I think that this goes to understanding the business of healthcare, the business of SPD, and what you invite or what you keep out will either grow your organization and increase your pay ability or not. I'll give you this example. The cities that want to keep the old relic look because they want to keep taxes down, they don't want new housing, they don't want apartment complex, like you have a council or a group of voters that are trying to keep a city older. Yeah, just for the nostalgia of what it used to be, but it does cost in economic dollars of growing a city, meaning yes, you do get more taxes, but how much inequity does your house grow? Yes, we have new businesses coming in that causes a little bit more traffic, but now we have more dollars circulating in our city, which means now the city can tax more, which means now the education system can get better. And I say that in that form, in the same way of any industry, not just SPD. When you push away innovation, you actually push away elevation in your paycheck. Oh, hello, somebody. I am talking to somebody today, because here's the deal. As automation and AI continues to reshape sterile processing, SPD professionals must evolve beyond manual tasks. And because it positions them to be as strategic, tech-savvy leaders. It's just so instead of fearing automation, the key is to leverage it to enhance skills, improve efficiency, and increase value into your healthcare system. If I'm pushing away innovation, I'm telling executives, oh, this is caveman work. We don't need all of that to be great. You should be saying, we need it.
I need
Oh,
it.
we need it.
I need everything.
Oh, we need it. We need it. Yeah, we need everything. Why? Because just like you said, SGG, as things break, you go from being just the technician working on instruments to the technician working on the mechanics of the machinery. You go to just from repairing instruments. Now you're repairing the machinery and all the other technology advances that have that came into the department. Now you have more jobs that can be provided, a newer look into what SPD looks like. So yes, we should absolutely be welcoming this stuff in. But can I tell you something? Technology and AI is only as good as the manual processes predating the technology and AI.
Yes.
So if we don't get cleaner in the way that we're running our departments and turn them from cost centers to profit centers, we won't be able to actually see what change looks like, and we'll always be behind. And this is why it's important for everyone to be inundated in learning the business of SPD. We got the task. So you got different levels, right? You have the entry, your technician level. You're mastering doing the job. You're doing the task. You're doing the task yourself. Then you have the team lead supervisor level. You're managing people doing the task. So you're managing the task getting done through people. Then you have your manager's level. Now you're managing how to manage people. You're not worried about the task because your team lead and your supervisors are worried about the task. So the higher you elevate within your organization, the more it changes what you should be developing, getting experience in, and focusing on. If you are a manager still worried about simple tasks, that lets you know that maybe the development within your organization isn't as strong as you think that it is. Because as a manager, you should be people managing, not task managing. Your supervisors and your team leads are task managers. And then your technicians are the ones doing the task. And then when you go to director, now you're worried about the department. You go to peri-op, now you're worried about multiple departments. And so if you want for the senior leadership to respect you, you have to speak to them in the language that they speak in every day. They don't speak in your language of SPD. They speak in the language of healthcare business. What, like you said, SGG, what are our lawsuits? You want a budget? Do you know how we allocate our budget? Do you know when the budgets are freed up every year? You're asking me in November every year for a budget, not knowing that most hospitals free their budget in February. So these are the things that we have to get better. And this is what we help managers and leaders do that come to SIPS. We work with the leaders. We work with your directors. We work with your managers. We help them write their SBARs. We help them build business plans. We coach them up on the business of healthcare. So when they're giving what they need and they're working with SIPs, we can get the yeses a lot easier and a lot faster because we're teaching the leaders that have never been taught business economics of healthcare or business in general. But we're putting these people in these leadership positions, and the healthcare system in the hospital is not putting extra dollars into the development of these leaders that you have running multi-million-dollar departments. Mm-hmm. How can you put somebody over running a multi-million-dollar department that can't even keep a budget in their own house?
That part is true. That part is true. And we have to understand that together, as we learn and as we grow, together we're better.
That's right.
Together we're better.
That's right.
And you have to, back in the day when all we had was sinks and water and cleaner, that was hard. Once we got a washer sterilizer, it got a little better. Once we got washer decontaminators, we were singing hallelujah. Thank you, Jesus.
That's right. That's right.
So you want to have the advancements because we don't want to work harder. We want to work smarter.
That's right.
We want to understand that together we're better. And you know that there's a saying from a Japanese wisdom writer. He said, Santori, he says, individually, we're one drop. Together, we become the ocean.
Well, say that again. You better say that again. Let me write that down.
Individually.
Okay, individually. Hold on. Individually, we are one drop.
Together, we become an ocean.
Together, we become an ocean. Now, when I say this on my next keynote, I'm letting y'all know right now. I got it from SGG.
Santori.
I'm gonna say SGG because I got it from SGG. I got my Santori is SGG. Now you can tell them Santori. I'm gonna say based on Virginia Wise Council. SGG said individually we're one drop, but together we are an ocean. And this brings me to the last portion of the show. Speaking of ocean, can you guys look at the camera? I'm gonna start with DJ. Before we finish this episode, and we're gonna finish every episode like this, I want you to pour your heart out to that technician. For you, DJ, I want you to pour your heart out to that technician that feels like they have no help, they have no support, they just want to be the best that they can. What will you say to them to make them stay in it a little longer? And why is it worth it? Just put the camera on him, Iggy.
I will say to that technician, I'm a walking, living testimony of what this profession can do for you and the life-changing experience it can provide for you in your life. Learning the basics of number one, care in the healthcare setting. Number two, how to reprocess and treat equipment that serves and helps patients. And the importance of being mission driven into impacting someone's life can ultimately impact you, and you can take those same attributes and skills and principles you learn and apply it to other areas, whether you want to grow and become a surge tech or a nurse or a doctor or start a business in a whole different industry. What you learn being committed to the sterile processing department and this career profession and working through the tough and difficult times to achieve greatness and provide great quality work for patients will carry on down the line and benefit you in other areas. So stick to it. Don't give up. Become one with your team. Be willing to pivot and learn new things like AI technology and other areas within the department. And just be willing to adjust and grow and be patient with changes because it will get better.
All right, and SGG for that person that's like, man, I'm going to the conferences. I'm doing what you're saying, SGG. I'm learning the regulations. I'm learning the standards, but I feel like I'm fighting. Why should I keep fighting? Why should I just not leave the industry? Well, why should I stick to it and keep pushing against this resistance?
I say be true to yourself. First, is this your profession? Is this what you love? Is this what you like? If this is what you love and you like, and you understand that you do patient care every day, and that patient comes into that hospital depending on you as the manager of that department to be sure that everything is done correctly as best as possible, then you stay and you fight because this is what you love. You have to know your assignment and your purpose. And if you know your assignment and you understand your purpose, and this is what you want to do, you'll fight for it. But if you find that if you're coming in and you just weary and you get sick as you get to the driveway of the hospital, you start getting a headache, then you have to reevaluate and say, am I here for the right reason? I mean, this is just true facts. I have fought in this profession for years. And I fought because I loved, at the end of the day, I loved what I did. I loved the people that I worked with who were trying to do it right. I loved my assignment. My assignment was to make sure that the product that we processed, that we produced, got to our customer and helped them on their road to recovery. I understood the assignment. What we do matters every day. And I preached that to my team every day. What you do matters. You are important. Know that you're important if nobody else tells you. Be happy about the job you did at the end of the day. Do your best every day. Keep learning because knowledge is power. And as you learn and as you grow, you know. As you grow, you know, and you become the best person that you can be in that profession. The best lawyers, the best doctors, the best of anything have all had valleys, hills, and mountains. They made a decision to keep climbing. That's a decision only you can make. Don't let anybody bring you down. Don't let anybody tear you down. Be secure in who you are. And understand that as you listen to your heart about your profession, you will be better and things will get better. And when you find you can't fight the fight anymore at that particular institution, it took me years to learn this. Know your worth and understand you are good enough to get a job somewhere else in your profession and work towards that means.
And if you're great at what you do, you can always come back to SIPS. And then I want to give a message to the business professionals, late bloomers, or the people that fell in love late with this industry. When you come into this industry speaking loud about change because you felt the passion of people that have really made change in this industry, don't be discouraged by naysayers that are mad that you're here. When I first came into this industry, there were so many subject matter experts that were upset because I was talking loud. And who is Dr. Jake? Who is this guy? And what I will tell you is that when you know that you're here for a great cause and you know that you can help bring change, everybody, no matter your race, your religion, your belief, no matter what industry you're in, you need allies that know the language, that know the land, that know the communication barriers that is stopping from change being had. It doesn't take away from people that have done amazing things for 30, 20, 30 years, like Karen Cherry Brown, like Sharon Greene-Golden. But it does add value when you can actually speak the language that the senior and executive leadership can respect and honor. So for those of you that are coming in like me and you're falling in love with healthcare, you're falling in love with sterile processing, you're falling in love with being a part of an industry that literally directly impacts lives. Don't let the naysayers detract you from being a change agent that you can be to move an industry forward. Because at the end of the day, it's not about one person creating change, because we're all holding each other's hands and standing on somebody's shoulders that came before us. It's about us working together and staying inundated in what we believe is right. Because guess what? Somebody, your mama, your daddy, your granny, or even yourself, you're going to be under the knife one day. You're going to be in a hospital for something that we support one day. And you're going to want to know that there are advocates and warriors that have advocated and pushed for a healthier space for us to not only have a surgery but recover well. And so for those of you that are watching SPD 911 right now, whether Derrick's message resonated with you, whether Sharon Greene-Golden's message resonated with you, whether what we're doing at SIPS Healthcare resonates with you, or what I just said resonated with you, please join our SIPS executive community, our executive edge community. You can go to SPD911.com and join our community. We want the people that are going to be radical about change, not checkbox makers, not people that are just trying to fill their resume. We want to build a networking community of people that are truly inundated to grow and develop and become everything that we dream to become. We want people that says, hey, I love what I do so much, I want my daughter and my son to be in the same industry. That's when we know that we'll be able to create the change that can be made. And that's the vision of our founder, Karen Cherry Brown, and the baton that our CEO, Donnie Payne, is running with to this day and at this moment. So go to SPD911.com to join our community. It is free. It costs you nothing. If you want to listen to this playback, it'll be on our Bread to Lead podcast. You can go to breadtolead.com or go to Apple. Bread to Lead, our podcast, our network. SPD 911 is under Bread to Lead. This episode will be broken down into 2 parts because it was long, but we wanted to make up for it last week when we missed it. We love showing up for you every day. Join the community, ask your questions so that we can answer it. Or if we don't have the answer, we'll get somebody on that does. We love you, and there's absolutely nothing you can do about it. And whether anybody says it or not, you are a hero too. Peace.